Good morning, everybody, and thank you to Claire for allowing us for a few minutes. This is just a very brief introduction. My name is Edwin from Department of Civil Environmental Engineering, along with Paul Henshaw and a number of colleagues. We talk about engineering solutions for climate change. Certainly, we've heard a lot this morning about how policy and decisions can affect technology and the technology we embrace. The reverse is also true. The technologies that we design and implement also go back and feed into technology itself. As us in the engineering faculty are well aware of, climate change has really changed, literally, the game that we teach and design for. Many of the things that I and my colleagues were educated on in terms of data, approaches, and methodologies, they don't really apply anymore. And I noticed there are a number of alumni in the crowd, so sorry, the game's changed what we taught you. But to that end, this is just an introduction to what our department does in terms of addressing climate change. And as introduced, we do break it up into two general categories with, of course, the interface in between. The first is adaptation. So we're talking about assessing the impacts, for example, on peak flood levels, stormwater flows, water quality, and food security. And these are the types of things that we are currently researching right now and engaging in. Mapping revised flood lines, devising strategies for rural and urban flood control and water quality management, as well as other things such as modeling civil infrastructure deterioration and also modeling building information for resilient infrastructure planning. So Claire mentioned, what does resilient infrastructure mean? We actually might have some answers. Not the full answer, but certainly we do have a fairly good grasp of what that may entail and where that will take us. Mitigation, of course, as we mentioned, is important. We do have to adapt. That's the reality now. But mitigation is also an important thing that we continue to strive for. And in terms of improving energy efficiency, a number of things that we are involved in on the renewable energy side. Those of you who know Dr. Caravel, for example, wind energy is one of the research areas we're engaged in. And maybe not an area you thought about, because a lot of the original wind installations are now reaching their end of their original lifespan. So how do we manage that technology in terms of the turbine and infrastructure longevity? Things such as solar, which will be obviously a big part of how we handle energy. How do we increase its efficiency? Geothermal, which is not as well explored here in our area, offers the tantalizing potential for a lot of clean energy, but again, it has to be done right, and we're talking about optimizing how to configure it. And of course, we talk about things like renewable greenhouse gas, natural gas, and in this way, we can be, for example, hitting two objectives with one effort. So the greenhouse gases from organic waste. How can we creatively capture that, say, for example, through anaerobic digestion, and then convert it and actually produce energy? Anaerobic digestion has been around for a while, but has really come onto the radar for a lot of municipalities and other places as a way to handle this. And of course, a life cycle approach for civil, broad-scale civil infrastructure, in the sense that we look at the long range and overall impacts as opposed to just targeting things on a very narrow short term, which in the past has probably gotten us into trouble. And how we've collaborated has ranged, and I guess some of you in the crowd have obviously worked with us, but it can range anyway from cooperating with organizations to industry associations and individual industry partners, also municipalities, and of course other researchers, to basically define the need and also to develop the solutions that we might be looking for. We take a variety of activities. We undertake research, analysis, and development to both design and develop the technology. But what has been increasingly important, as we've noticed in a number of research, is the frameworks by which we manage this. In other words, we might already have the technology, but how do we manage that technology and how do we implement it to get to our goal? As many of you realize, the solution isn't always a better mousetrap. We might already have our means to do it, but how do we creatively put those pieces together to address the solution? And ultimately, I think what it is to add value, basically, to the bottom line. All those, obviously, who are on the industry side, they want to address climate change, but they also have to meet their bottom dollar. So how do we add value to your organization initiatives? By examining the benefits and impacts of the technology through optimization and other life cycle means. So again, this was very brief. On that note, I will now turn it over to our department head, Dr. Paul Henshaw, to tell you about some of the specific mechanisms by which we engage in various parties. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Edwin. I'll be even more brief than he was. Simply put, there are some national and provincial programs to fund research that goes on at universities or by universities, not necessarily on our premises. And those are in partnership with organizations such as industries, companies, and municipalities. In fact, the major national supporter of this kind of partnership research has recently changed their criteria so that public sector entities, like municipalities, can be a partner in this research funding. The funded research can take the form of experimental investigation, modeling, and of course, analysis of the results. But another method to collaborate is through what, at least in engineering, we have these capstone projects. These are 8-month projects undertaken by teams of usually 4 senior undergraduate students under supervision of a faculty advisor and an industrial advisor. They're conducted at no cost to the partner. I'm not saying that because it's a Black Friday sale or anything like that. They've always been that way. We have posters in the back here that talk about some of the climate change activities we have undertaken in terms of adaptation and mitigation. I certainly, and some of these actually are by capstone teams, so you'll see an example of the work. So I certainly invite you to peruse the posters at the back during lunch, talk with the professors present, and about our engineering solutions to your climate change issues. So, knowing that I'm between you and lunch, I'm going to stop there, and thanks for your attention, and bon appetit.